The series starts with a man standing amidst a pile of corpses. Another man hobbles over to him. We learn that his name is Ash. The man says that he believed he entrusted him with the Eastern Subjugation Force, so why is he here? Ash tells him that it is to kill him. The man glares at him. Ash says from the very beginning he intended to use his unit as bait to discard them once they were spent. He knows that's the truth. It turns out this guy is actually his father. His father says that is the purpose of a wingless one, asking if he's wrong. We learn that Ash is his nickname, as his name is actually Aster Elmheim. We learn that House Elheim is the greatest martial house on the continent, sworn to protect the royal family with the sword, and its head Lord Roderick Elheim was the sole possessor of the 7 wings in this kingdom. On a whim he once saved him, when he was left on the brink of death in a snowstorm. So to repay that debt he did everything he's asked of him. But he was constantly ridiculed for being called wingless, and he could not repay his father due to this. The wing crest is proof of one's magical power. It really just means the more wings, the greater the mana. As the only one in their house unable to wield magic, his siblings called him wingless. Even so, he kept taking up the sword, and constantly pushing his body to the limits, believing that one day his devotion would be rewarded. But on this mission, when he and his unit were waiting for their orders, they were surprised because they got ambushed by the enemies. He tells his father Roderick that he believed in him and followed him all this time, yet this is how he repays him. Roderick asks what expectations a mere tool could possibly have as his role is finished, and he can leave. Ash takes a long exhale before closing the gap, saying that he was a fool forever believing in his father. He swings towards him with everything he is calling himself pathetic. Roderick doesn't even try blocking, and just tanks the attack as we see it barely wound his neck. And his brothers both use magic to immobilize him before cutting off his arm and one of his legs. Ash begins to scream out and spit up blood and falls onto the floor, and they remind him that a wingless one will always be wingless, and crawling on the ground suits him perfectly. Ash says that if they were going to throw him away, he wants to know why he was even picked up. Roderick tells him not to flatter himself, as he never had any use for him. He picks him up by the hair, saying that what he needed was the power of the 7 wings dwelling within him. Ash is confused, asking what he means by 7 wings, and Roderick says that his mother was quite useful. She bore the seed that would serve his purposes, but that was all. He turns, leaving Ash to die there as his brothers raise their blades. He tells his father to answer him before they plunge down, stabbing him. Ash begins bleeding out all over the snow, and asks if this is where he dies. He wonders what he was even living for all this time. As he closes his eyes, succumbing to his wounds, he opens them once more to the snow above, and he says everything is white, but it is faintly warm, and he wonders if this is the afterlife. He looks around, seeing snow everywhere, and sneezes, realizing that this is reality. He wonders what is going on because his body is small. He looks at his hands, asking if it is his, saying that it is just like an infant's, rather it is an infant's body. He looks over to his side, spotting a dead woman, and he starts to have a vision. As his eyes glow golden, he sees men running on horses, saying they have to find that woman no matter what. In a blizzard like this, she can't have gone far, and for Lord Roderick's sake, they need to recover the baby she abducted. Ash is confused, asking what that was just now, and if they really said Lord Roderick. If he's searching for an infant, it must be him. He was told he was found on a night just like this during a blizzard, and wonders if maybe he's returned to the past. He gets another vision of them getting closer, and says it's ridiculous, but he'll have to confirm it later. If he stays here, he'll end up in Roderick's hands once more. His hands begin to glow faintly golden, and he starts to give off a yellow aura, and he starts crawling away, saying he needs to get as far as he possibly can. His hands are so warm they melt the snow. He says he's struggling to breathe, his limbs feel like they're burning. But he spent his whole life crawling previously, and he doesn't care to do it again because he will survive no matter what, and swears he'll get his revenge on Roderick. He crawls until he can't move anymore, and passes out. A little girl walks over to him, telling her father to check it out. He asks what in the world happened, and this is a Viscount of House Highfried. He wonders why there's a baby in a place like this, but then spots the trail behind Ash. He follows it with his eyes, asking if a baby really covered this distance, as it's a very clear trail due to the snow being completely burned and melted, and it's still emanating enough heat that it's not being laid over again. He looks down at Ash, wondering what is the deal with this child. Sometime later he opens eyes to a kid, and he wonders where he is, and says that the kid definitely came to greet him. But he sees the kid like an angelic POV until the kid grabs his nose to stop him from breathing. When he wakes up, there are multiple children surrounding him. They start pulling at him like a pit bull at a daycare. He wonders what's going on until one of the older girls pick him up and starts scolding the rest. He makes a break for it and starts crawling away. The other kids yell, telling him to stop as he's doing his absolute best to get away from them. His eyes start to shine golden like they did before, and he gets sent flying through the ceiling into the sky using magic. He then starts to fall, but he can't control it, so he starts flailing his arms. He closes his eyes out of fear until the Viscount picks him up, saying that he didn't think he'd fall from the sky this time, and he truly is a mysterious child. Ash recognizes him as High Fried, a Viscount in the Roderick domain. This is another Ulheim house. We learn that High Fried Ulheim is the head of the Viscount family, a branch of the Ulheim family. Once alongside his brother Roderick, he was one of the two wings, and trusted with protecting the royal family. But the High Fried he knows should have died in some civil war along with the collapse of his family. This confirms that he's gone back to the past, but to think that he was trying to escape from the Duke's house and end up being picked up by his brother sure is funny. The lady of the house says that she finds it surprising that this baby's magic went out of control and sent him flying. The Duke says that it seems so, and he thought he was more than just a baby, but he guesses not. The woman smiles at him, asking if he was scared, telling him it's okay now. Ash is just surprised by how warmly they're treating him, and the Duke even looks happy watching it. He tells his wife that the child actually possesses tremendous power. As he lifts his shirt, he says this crest is proof of that, and what Ash sees in the mirror is that he actually has 7 wings. He wonders why it's on his body, and then recalls what Roderick said about how he needed the power of the 7 wings he possesses. That means Roderick only took him to steal them, and that he was never wingless, they just ripped them off of him, taking the wings for himself. The lady of the house asks her husband what he's going to do with the child, and we see him thinking about it. Ash says that it's bad as he can't let this power fall into the hands of the Ulheim family again, as he needs to get revenge on his brother, until the Duke says that they should just adopt him. Ash is surprised, and the Duke stretches his hand out and pats his head, saying that he's still just a baby who can't even walk on his own. Until the moment he tries to take off with his wings, he'll take responsibility and take care of him. Ash can't believe that there's a person in the Ulheim family like this until the kids collapse through the door because they were eavesdropping. The Duke asks if they were all listening, and they tell him that's because they were worried about that child. The entire family seems to be a bunch of worrywarts. Then they start asking their mother what she's going to name him. She thinks about it until she gives him the name of Aster, saying that it'll be the name of the new star born into their family, meaning he has the same name as his last life. It jumps a whole 10 years later, and some men start greeting the Duke, and Ash exits the carriage behind him as he's grown up quite a bit. He guides his sister Alfie out of the carriage, and she thanks him. This was the baby who kept holding his nose, and it seems to be some coming-of-age ceremony, as where they're going to attend right now is called the Sword Dance Assembly. It's held annually by a certain Duke family under the Ulheim umbrella. It is a social gathering for martial arts noble families, and it is a place for nobles that deepen their faith, and at the same time a place for each family to show off and check the strength of swordsman candidates bearing their family name. As they follow their father to the assembly hall, people start whispering about them. They ask if they've come to embarrass themselves again without learning their lesson, and they came with a random boy they adopted this time around. They've done nothing but tarnish the name of the Ulheim family, and they don't know how long it will take until they're satisfied. They start acting really snobby towards Ash, and Alphine tells Ash not to worry about it, since if they show any weakness here they'll be crushed, and he can tell that she's scared because her hand is shaking. The Duke says this is the current position of their family, and he wanted to show him this. He asks Ash if he's disappointed, and Ash says no, he's fine with it being like this. He doesn't mind all the eyes. The Duke laughs, saying that's reassuring, and Ash explains that in his previous life he made his social debut as a disgrace to the Ulheim family, so this place holds some bitter memories for him, but he's different now that the 7 wings have returned. He looks up towards one of the upper floors, and what he spots in the windows are his brothers from his previous life who killed him, and he says that it's time for him first of all to make a much better debut than he did previously. Inside of the assembly we see 2 kids are fighting. Ash explains that as an era where knights ruled supreme, and might was their mastery of the blade, and it is the absolute pinnacle of swordsmanship, and majesty was their undying renown. But as they run at one another, he says it was also the absolute symbol, and what embodied both was none other than the metal. As the victor raises his hands into the air, we see the crest on his hand. Alphine says that this place is as overwhelming as ever, and it's no wonder that his sisters Furuin and Flare didn't want to come here. Ash remembers his past when he was ridiculed in front of everybody here. Alphine can tell that he zoned out. She says that it must be because he's nervous since it is his first sword dance festival after all. He says not really, it just feels nostalgic, but actually he finds it loathsome. Alphine is surprised, and their father tells them that he has a meeting to attend, so he'll be heading off for a bit. He's counting on Ash to look after Alphine. Alphine says that she's a year older than him, and Ash says that it's because she's so clumsy. The Duke says that there are many people around here that are their ages. He can use this time to mingle and build some connection. He just needs to make sure that nobody finds out about his 7 wings. As he walks away, Ash says that's easier said than done. As he can feel the scorn from all the other people here, he says it's hard to socialize when the atmosphere is this blatantly hostile. He then looks over spotting something, and walks towards it as Alphine asks where he's going. He says it's to make some friends. As we see his 2 brothers from his past life sitting on a couch chatting it up, Ash approaches them. They ask who he is. He tells them it's nice to meet them. We learn that one of his brothers' names is Dallas. He introduces himself saying that he is their younger brother. He saw them from outside, and thought he'd come by and say hello. The other brother says that he's the adopted kid that their uncle picked up. Dallas laughs, saying that is why he's shameless enough to carry the F in his name. We learn that Dallas and Gryan are both legitimate heirs of the Ilhim family, and they are the 2 who killed him in his past life, which we already knew. He says it's pathetic to think that he used to find them intimidating as they just look like kids playing dress-up. Alphine calls out to him, and grabs his hand, telling him that it's time to go as he's already said his greetings. Dallas calls out to Alphine, asking if she's still hiding behind her father's back, telling her she should come over there and keep them company. This is an order from the main house after all. She says she refuses as there is no master-servant relationship between the main and branch families. Ash tells her to wait because he's not done talking yet, but he can tell how scared she is because she's shaking. He decides to go along with it. Dallas then says he thought of something good. This girl's father is a knight who couldn't even protect the king, and he took the fall and had his arm chopped off by his own brother. He's just glad that he doesn't have the blood of a loser flowing through his veins. This pisses her off, and she runs over telling him to take it back. She won't let him insult her father. He spits his drink straight into her face, saying that she's born into a family of nothing but useless women who can't even inherit a title, and her father must be disappointed. As this isn't a ballroom. Next time she should wear some rags so it won't matter when she gets drenched. She starts to cry while holding on to her dress, and Ash says he was actually worried before he got here. Worried that he wouldn't feel any anger even after seeing their faces again. He grabs a bottle from one of the kids, and says that it sure is a relief. He touches Alphine's shoulder, and throws the bottle straight up towards Dallas. Dallas catches it, confused, but Ash cuts the bottle in half, saying that it's good to see they're still both pieces of shit. It spills all over Dallas, and Ash starts to look down at his blade, and licks some of the wine up. He says that it's actually just grape juice, and it fits a bratty noble like him perfectly. We get a flashback to 3 years ago when the Duke was telling Ash to hold his power back, asking if he's trying to kill his sisters, as we see everybody terrified. The Duke wonders if this is the true power of the 7 wings, and he never imagined it would hold such an incredibly dangerous power behind it, and he doesn't know if it can truly be controlled by him or by Ash either. The flashback ends with a man barging into the room, telling the Duke that it's terrible. The lords of the families ask what he's doing by barging into the middle of their conference. He says that it's because the main family and the branch family of Ulheim are currently being represented by their sons in a duel. The Duke looks surprised, and Roderick is there too. The Duke's the first to step up, and walks out. I can't believe I never noticed Homie was missing an arm. Alphine runs over, and he asks what happened. Another man tells them to get a load of this. It's a brotherly quarrel in their family, and this isn't something you get to see often, and depending on the outcome it could actually hold a lot more meaning than usual. Meaning it might get a little chaotic around here. Dallas holds his sword into the air, calling him a fool for picking a fight with him, saying in the end he's just a mongrel born in the wild, and he doesn't even understand the difference in their power. He raises his hand, showing that he has a 4-winged crest. Everybody starts praising him, saying that, as expected, Roderick's son is on a different level. Dallas tells Ash to show him the wings on his crest, or if maybe he's too embarrassed to show it in public. Ash says that flaunting a mere pattern with pride like that is so shameful that he doesn't think he could ever do it. Dallas gets pissed, and Ash tells him that if he wins he apologizes to his sister, asking if he agrees. Dallas says sure, but if he wins he needs to become his dog, as he'll work him for the rest of his life. Dallas charges in, and swings down, but Ash blocks it, although it causes him to create some distance between the two of them. His hands then start shaking, and Dallas tells him that this is the power of the four-winged crest, and closes the gap once more, attacking using both of his swords. Alphine calls out to him scared, and one of the men from earlier says that Dallas's swordsmanship are still immature. However, no matter how clumsy one's blade may be, the overwhelming magical power that compensates for it is an advantage of those who bear a winged crest. If the magic housed in one's wing is like the flame of a candle, then the magic concealed within four wings is truly an explosion. Dallas laughs at him, asking where all that confidence from earlier went, as he thought he wanted him to apologize, or maybe those were just empty words. And he needs to show him his powers as he leaps off the ground into the air, channeling his magic into both of his blades. Some fat chud says that the match is decided as he swings down. The attack actually gets blocked by Ash, and Dallas looks surprised. Ash tells him that he talks too much, and sends him flying backwards through the air. As he starts to release the magic power into his sword, he says for the past 10 years he's learned magic in his uncle's household, waiting for nothing but the chance of revenge as he slowly walks forward. Dallas is completely panicked, and looks like he's scrambling to try to get any breathing room he can. Ash then goes in to swing once more, and Dallas blocks it using both of his blades, but the power's enough to make him kneel. Brian can't believe that his brother is actually being pushed back right now by a low-born found in the snow. Dallas panics, and says that he's a four-wing, so how is this possible? Ash looks down at him with cold eyes, and starts to put even more power into his blade, and keeps pushing down. Everybody watching is in amazement that Dallas is being bodied like this, as they didn't believe that monsters like this still lived in Elheim. Though we see a black aura starting to invade Ash's yellow, the Duke says this is bad, and his hands are shaking, as it seems Ash is losing control as Dallas's sword starts to crack. Ash recalls his past life, and how Dallas cut his arm off, and enjoyed every minute of it. It starts to drive him blind with pure rage as he releases even more aura. Dallas begs him to stop, and Alphine screams, telling him to stop. We see a massive explosion as Dallas's sword breaks, and gets sent flying. The man from earlier is watching the fight intently, and as the blade's tip lands directly behind Ash on the floor, we see he made Dallas piss his pants. Ash says next time he should come wrapped in some rags, that way he wouldn't mind getting soaked. He hit him with the same line he hit Alphine with, and then he resheathes his blade, and walks away. Alphine looks relieved, and Ash says he's no longer the wingless that he was previously, just realizing that has already cleared his mind. A chill then runs down his spine, as Roderick begins releasing some crazy killing intent from the other side of the room atop the stairs. Everybody feels it, and Ash turns, instantly recognizing the aura as Roderick is glaring at him. The pressure alone makes Ash start to sweat. It seems like it was directed mostly at Ash, because the people are still talking about the fight he just had with Dallas, rather than the killing intent in the air. They can't believe that he actually knocked out somebody from the main family, and they say that it's putting them in a bad spot. Ash actually starts approaching Roderick, and Dallas looks happy that his dad showed up. They have a WWE stare down, and Dallas is the first to make a move as he charges to his father, grabbing onto him, saying that he's the one who dared to defy the main family despite being a half-breed, and that he needs to show him his place. Roderick, though, stabs his sword straight into Dallas's hand. It looks like he targeted his crest. Dallas looks down confused, and everybody else watches in horror as Dallas starts screaming. Roderick asks why the loser of the duel is standing there with a grin on his face, and if he doesn't realize that he dragged their family name to the dirt, as those who can't even avenge themselves. As he starts to pull his blade back out, High Fried yells, telling him not to do it, but Roderick says that he has no right to wield a sword. He goes to swing, but comes to a stop. As Dallas looks surprised, so does Roderick, and Roderick asks Ash what he thinks he's doing. Ash says that his cousin still hasn't apologized to his sister yet, and that he should wait until after he does that to punish him. Roderick says that he's heard about the orphan that his brother took in, asking if he actually believes that makes him a member of their family. Ash says that he is still the son of his brother, and even if they aren't related by blood, he still has the pride of a knight, and the weight of a household to his name. He believes that he has learned well enough from his father to represent those things. Roderick glances back at his brother, and tells him that as a member of the Viscount's house, he has needlessly tarnished the reputation of the main family, and that the pride of the king's sword, and the pinnacle of the 12,000 knights under his banner, is not a matter that can be settled as a mere childhood squabble, and that his father gave his arm as the price for his disloyalty. So what exactly is he prepared to sacrifice? Ash says with all due respect, this wasn't some sibling spat, but a legitimate duel. He simply answered insults against his family with his blade, and that those who cannot avenge themselves have no right to hold a sword. Those were his exact words, and he has no intention of throwing away so much as a single finger. Alphine looks worried, and that dude from earlier just seems impressed. Another man watching laughs at the fact that a 10-year-old is standing up to Roderick, and Roderick thinks about it before sheathing his blade, saying that he sees. Roderick says in that case he needs to take his stance. And as Ash does, the blade coming straight in towards his head, and he gets sent flying backwards, smashing through a couple objects into the wall. Alphine starts to cry, and looks horrified, and High-Fried screams at his brother, and leaps off the balcony straight towards him. Roderick doesn't even turn around, and blocks the attack. As High-Fried lands in front of him, he quickly starts running over to Ash, asking if he's okay. We see his blade is broken on the floor, and High-Fried is surprised to see that Ash is still standing, and pointing his blade at Roderick despite it being broken. Roderick stares at him, and walks away as Dallas follows. Ash then starts to fall over, and High-Fried calls out to him, but Ash tells him that he protected his sister, and their family's name. High-Fried tells him that he was magnificent, and as Roderick is making his way up to the top of the stairs, the dude from earlier says that he sure did act like a child, but if he had left the boy half his way, the main family's reputation would be in tatter, so he supposes it was a fair compromise. But he ended up facing the great Duke Roderick himself, and he made a bold stand, and survived, so he'll become a rising star. And for that boy, it was the most spectacular debut into high society imaginable. The fat chud says although he was kept on the edge of his seat, he was fearing that it might split the Ilheem family in two. Roderick says that it wouldn't be a mistake to say that an era of upheaval will soon be upon them, as a storm so great is approaching, it may very well divide the family into multiple pieces. Sometime later, we're out on the training grounds. Everybody watches in amazement as Ash is single-handedly winning every fight. The man he just beat tells him that was impressive, and everybody's just impressed by the fact that he's that strong while only being 10. And ever since he returned from the sword dance assembly, he's thrown himself into training even more so than he did before. And that's quite the inspiration to them all. Plus, he apparently crushed Lord Roderick's third son. And the main family's been making them choke down bitter pills for so long that it was quite a breath of fresh air for them. Ash says that he showed his strength off pretty well at the sword assembly, and this should quiet the voices mocking their family as the Ilheem's disgrace. But his real target is still Ilheem itself. If he could push it, he would have tested how far his power could have gone and actually where he stands compared to Roderick. But he understands that he is nowhere close to him at the moment. After all, the wing crest is just an indicator of one's rank and latent magic power. Yet he still can't draw out the power of 7 wings. Born with it or not, if you can't wield your magic, it's wasted potential. If only he could test 7 wings to its limits without worrying about it rampaging, he'd be able to see just how strong it truly is and how much control he has over it. He wins his next fight, asking if there's anyone else as we see people just strewn out along the floor. Alfie asks if he's back at it again, and as usual he never knows restraint, and it's unbelievable, also that their father is calling for him. He says, bet, he'll head over, but then he comments on her outfit. She asks what about it, and he says it's a rare sight. Because before, she said it wasn't cute, but also mentioned never wanting to wear it again. She says everything needs balance, and seeing him made her think that she can't keep going like this. So when he gets back, he's going to spend his time sparring with her. He laughs, telling her to go easy on him, and heads to his father's office asking what he needs. His father tells him to sit down, and Ash does so. His dad says that it's been about 10 years since they welcomed him into the family, and he thought he'd wait until he was a bit more grown. He passes over a ring, and Ash asks what it is, and his dad says he wants him to succeed the family house. He knows as well that the house is in a precarious position. But like it or not, they're a branch bearing the Ilheem name. Lords entrusted with their own territory, much to protect, they can't leave the next head empty forever. He asks if his sister's okay with it. His father says that when he goes to the Night Academy, he'll meet with the sisters, and he'll tell everybody properly then. He can tell that his sisters won't be thrilled, saying that Kudo especially will be furious, as she hates him just for being born as a male, lucky enough to have 7 wings. And that he can't accept this. He can't even control his magic. He nearly killed his own sisters previously. He's too immature, and nothing can convince his angry sister otherwise. The Duke smiles. As Ash walks away, he says he's always made him doubt whether he's really a kid or not. And he thought this ring was a good reward for the sword dance assembly, but it seems he'd prefer this instead. As he pulls something out, he puts it on the table and opens it up. Ash instantly recognizes it as it's the magic sword. Graham, also called the Magic Devouring Blade, that can control the 7 wings power. They take a trip outside so they can properly use the sword's full power. Ash says that if he's just showing him the sword, the training hall should have been fine, but his dad says this is just a precaution. He tends to break things quite often, and that shit low-key gets expensive. And that the magic sword he's holding, Graham, is a famous blade passed down only to the eldest son of the Ilheem family. He had it brought from the main house for his sake. He starts to bite the wrapping off of the blade, and Ash is surprised at the fact that it's actually broken. His dad says as he can see it has no actual blade, but if you imbue it with magic power, as it starts to create one, he explains that the sword is a blade of potential completed by the wielder's magic power. It creates a massive Kamehameha type attack that obliterates everything in its path, and his dad says however with mediocre magic power you might find yourself completely drained by the blade instead, and it's a sword with a history. He hands it to Ash, asking if he wants to give it a try or not. Ash takes it, and starts to pour his mana into the sword, and it creates an overwhelmingly blinding light. Ash says that even if he didn't want to, his mana is flowing into the sword on its own, and it blasts straight up into the sky, breaking the sound barrier in the process. Everybody turns hearing it. One of the trainees asks if maybe it was a comet or something, and the other trainee calls him stupid, saying that something flew up into the sky. They start arguing, and Alphine says it must be Ash. He falls onto his ass in disbelief, saying it's an extraordinary sword. His dad says what's actually extraordinary here is his power, as the clouds themselves were completely split. His dad says there has never been a single person possessing 7 wings, and even looking back through the entire Ulheim family lineage, he's the only exception. Once he masters that power, he will likely become a swordsman who far surpasses himself and even his brother Roderick. Of course that's Ash's biggest goal, but his dad tells him that power that is too great always sows the seed of conflict. If it were known that he had 7 wings, everyone would envy or resent him, and some would try to exploit him, others would surely try to eliminate him as a nuisance. So to ensure he doesn't regret his own powerlessness when that time comes, he needs to become strong while he still can. Ash says that's right. He will no longer live a miserable life like he did in his previous one, and he thanks his dad saying he will master both the 7 wings and the sword. 3 whole days later, the family is greeting his 2 sisters, and they say that they have finally returned. She clears her throat to tell her sisters to give her a hug, but instead Fu run, and Flair run over hugging Malfa instead of Kudo. Kudo asks where her hug is, and they both tell her that she always messes up their hair. She says she doesn't, and she would never behave so immodestly. She spots Alphine, and runs over hugging her asking if she's been good. Alphine asks why she's harassing her, and Malfa looks around asking where Ash is. Her father says that if she's looking for him, he's out training, and Kudo wonders what's up. We see still in the forest, as there's a massive explosion into the sky once more. It settles down and he's pouring sweat, saying it's no good. He's able to create a sword with his magic, but he can't keep it under control. He wonders what to do to be like his father. Kudo says that he's really gone, and outdone himself this time, and he's surprised she's back already. She says for him not to even welcome his own sisters back, that's pretty cold of him, or maybe it's because he thinks he's special, and doesn't even bother to notice them. As she heard about what happened at the assembly, the Knight Academy was buzzing with rumors about him, and she's sure that their father must be very proud. He says the same goes for her. He heard that even as a trainee she's already become active in numerous missions, and that she was the only knight to be awarded the honorary knight medal this year. She says that if she couldn't at least do that, she'd never be able to succeed father, and she heard that he turned down the offer to be successor asking if it was for her sake. He can't believe that he got narked on, and says that wasn't his intention, he just didn't think he was worthy yet. She laughs, and walks over to a tree saying that both he and their father know what her dream is, and they're being so spiteful. Ash is just confused, and she swings at the tree, sending it flying straight towards him. He dodges asking what the hell she's doing all of a sudden, and she tells him that it's been a while so she's going to give him a little test, and she's going to come at him for real. He tells her to wait, as his sword is still incomplete. Ash asks if he can make the same excuse when facing an enemy on the battlefield, and he asks what she's talking about. She says that the knight's code is to always be ready for battle, and if he keeps holding back she'll crush him. Ash says that this is the worst timing, as he already has his hands full trying to control the magic power, but he has no choice, because if he doesn't fight his sister seriously, he might actually get killed by her. As she leaps at him, he readies his blade to match, but sit back in the cuck chair, because we don't get to see what happens.